Fala pessoal, estamos aqui no Pipoca e Nanquim Internacional. Eu tenho aqui a honra de receber nos estúdios do Pipoca e Nanquim o nosso querido Kim Andersson, um quadrinista sueco. E vocês talvez se recordem que há um tempo atrás eu gravei um vlog falando sobre o Alana, que foi um grande lançamento da editora Avec no ano passado, e o Bruno até brincou falando, você lembra, Bruno? Falava que escorria sangue da tela.
Lembro.
Então, e é uma HQ muito bacana, eu adorei quando eu li essa daqui. E agora temos a oportunidade de conversar com o Kim aqui pessoalmente. Então, bater um papo com ele, saber um pouco como é o mercado lá, sua carreira de quadrinista, beleza? Kim, how are you, my friend?
I'm fine, thank you.
Right. How long have you been in Brazil?
I've been in Brazil for 3 days.
3 days?
Yes, I've been to Porto Alegre for the book fair and had a wonderful time. That was really fantastic.
The first thing I'd like to know, it's about the comic scene in Sweden.
Sure.
Because I don't know much about it, and we have comics from all over the world, including European comics.
Sure.
But not so much in Sweden.
This is actually the first Swedish comic book to be published in Brazil.
That's incredible.
Right? I'm so proud. It's so cool. And you seem to like it. It's actually sold a bit. I've heard from my editor Arthur, so I'm really happy about that. But the Swedish comics scene is quite special, actually. There's a lot of female comic book creators in Sweden. There's actually as many female creators as there are male comic book creators.
That's different.
That's really different, right? So whenever we go out in the world to Comic-Cons or festivals, we're the only ones who bring girls. And they're really good, really super talented. And the other thing that's kind of special about Sweden is that comics that are seen as alternative comics, comics like Fantagraphics, you know, those black and white, satire, political, feminist, autobiography, those kinds of comics, they are actually the mainstream comics in Sweden, and they're very popular. So my comics, which are science fiction, fantasy, and horror, a lot of horror, genre comics, they are kind of the alternative in Sweden. We have the American comics.
Is it strong?
But not that. It was stronger maybe in the 80s and the 90s when I grew up. You could more easily find American comics in Sweden, but now it's not that big anymore. And the French comics used to be more published in Sweden as well. But now it's really the alternative comics are the mainstream, which is kind of weird.
That is awesome. And tell me something, is the scene strong enough for a producer to live just producing comics?
Sure. Sweden is a pretty small country. We're only just about 10 million people in the whole country. So that's, I think, half of whole of São Paulo, right? Yeah. But I make a living from making comics, but I think it's because I get scholarships from the government, like for being an artist and an author, and also I've started getting published outside of Sweden.
Yeah,
that's really good.
Tell me, you said that you grew up reading Marvel or North American comics.
Yeah, definitely.
Which are your influences as an artist?
Sure. I grew when I was a small kid. I read French comics like Asterix and Lucky Luke. Not Tintin. I thought Tintin was very boring, but because my mother collected the Lucky Luke and Asterix, they were always around. But then when I got a little bit older, I started reading American comics, Marvel comics. Spider-Man was my favorite guy, and I collected I had hundreds and hundreds of issues of Spider-Man comics.
But as an artist, which are your influences?
Well, I think it wasn't. In my teens, I read a lot of American superhero comics, and Image Comics came in the 90s when I was a teenager, and Todd McFarlane and those guys. Sam Keith was I really liked, but it wasn't until I was maybe 20, 21, and I found American and Canadian alternative comics like Hernandez brothers and Daniel Close and Peter Bagg and Julie Douchet and I really got a feeling that wow, this might be something that I can do myself.
Yeah.
And I think not just the style that they were drawn in, but also the way that they were told. Well, superhero comics can be fantastic, and they can touch on very sensitive subjects. But I didn't want to make superhero comics. The Americans are great at doing that. I don't have to do that.
Pessoal, se vocês não conhecem isso daqui, procura lá no vídeo, mas só um panorama rapidinho. Isso aqui é uma história sobre uma psicopata, ok? E é uma história muito, muito bem feita, em que ela conversa com os mortos, é uma parada bem bacana e bem diferentona. E eu vou conversar um pouquinho aqui sobre isso com ele. Kim, which was your process to create Alena? Because it starts in a way and there is a very huge development, and in the last scene you do something which does not change but improves your comprehension on the character.
Yeah.
Which way, what was exactly your thoughts when you were developing it?
Wow, yeah, Alena was my first graphic novel comic. I did a lot of short comics before, Love Hurts. They were called also romantic horror comics.
Love Hurts, we have it here.
Yeah, that's the American collection of Love Hurts. So I did them for years in a monthly magazine. One every month, and they were very inspirational and very fun to create. Well, during that time that I had published these comics, I had noticed when I went to signings and whatever, that my reader base was a lot of teenage girls. For some reason, they liked my comics. Teenage goth and emo girls. There's a lot of girls reading comics in Sweden, and yeah, I think that's really cool.
So this influenced your choice as a character?
Yeah, I kind of wanted to give back to those girls. I wanted to give them like a classic horror story, but where all the characters, all the different characters, the meanest and most villainous character to the most heroic character, everyone was young girls. Because, yeah, I think it's about time, you know, there's so many comic books just about men. It's a very personal book. It's about subjects that I was pondering when I grew up, about bullying, about...
Killing people.
I haven't killed anyone. Believe me. Yet. No. And also the sexual preferences and all those different... feelings and ideas that are touched upon in the book. I reread the book a short while ago when we made a movie out of the book in Sweden.
Yeah. Yes, I know it.
So when that was going on, I was asked to read the book and my script and everything and work on the movie script, and I really noticed that. That was a kind of a different person who who wrote this book. I'm a lot more happy today. And I think it was kind of a therapeutic book to write. It was about feelings and thoughts that I had to work with, and I think those feelings and thoughts are very universal. Everyone growing up has some experience with bullying and wondering about perhaps their sexuality or whatever. So yeah.
Great. Talking about the movie, this was my next question.
Sure.
As far as I know, it was not released in Brazil.
No.
But I watched the trailer on the YouTube.
Yeah.
And it seems very faithful to the comic book.
Definitely.
At least watching the trailer.
Sure.
Did it change something in your life, having the book, having the movie?
It was really, really... it was a really good thing for me, because when they decided they were gonna make the movie, this was a few years ago, and it was just before my book started getting published outside of Sweden, so I was kind of in a low place. I was like, wow, I've been drawing comics for 12 years and it's not really working. And then finally they just called me and said, we're gonna make a movie, and I was like, okay, this is good. This is gonna work out. So
the reward, right?
Yeah, right. And that meant a lot to me. But then also that I had the opportunity to work with the movie and work with the script and work with the casting and the clothes.
Oh,
and
did you?
Yeah. Everything all up until they started shooting, I was involved in creating the movie.
That's so incredible because a while ago we had an interview here with Sam Hart, which he's the
Artist?
the artist of Atomic. You know this movie
yeah, I
with
think so.
Charlize Theron,
Oh sure, wow.
Atomic Blonde.
Yeah,
so I made the same question, and he said, "Oh no,
Yeah, right.
nothing happened to me. They just gave me a check,
Yeah, right.
and I lost."
I think that's the usual way. That's how it usually happens. You know, they buy the options for your story, and then 10 years later you go buy a ticket to the movie.
That's it.
Yeah, right. But I got a chance to be really involved, and I'm actually in the movie.
All right.
Yeah, I got to do a little cameo like Alfred Hitchcock. I have a little line and everything.
Great.
So there's
great.
only 2 men in the whole movie, and I'm one of them.
Incredible experience.
Yeah, that was
And
really
now, galera, a gente já mostrou, isso aqui é o Love Hurts, saiu pela Dark Horse. Se tiver na Amazon a gente vai deixar o link de compra. E essa daqui é a versão da Lena, da Dark Horse também. E o Kim tem um quadrinho novo, que é o Astrid. So this is your new comic.
Yeah, this is the first book that I created for Dark Horse. So they published my other books, Love Hurts and Alena. And I think actually I'm talking to Arthur about publishing Love Hurts in Brazil as well. Maybe next year.
Great.
Yeah, that's
you
gonna
should
be really fun.
because it's so beautiful.
Oh, thank you. So Astrid was my next challenge. First I did a lot of short stories, then I did a graphic novel, and now finally I created my comic book character that I can do a lot of books with. So this is the first book with Astrid and her
So-
insane universe that she lives in. I'm really proud of the whole Dark Horse thing. I think me being published on Dark Horse really was the instigation for me being published in a lot of different countries, definitely.
Kim, so basically that's it.
Sure.
And, thanks a lot.
Deixa eu fazer uma perguntinha.
O Bruno quer fazer uma pergunta. Sorry.
Eu entendi que tem uma cena bem ativa de quadrinhos lá
Sim.
na Suécia. Pergunto se ele acha que o público de lá se interessaria em ler quadrinhos nacionais daqui, se o quadrinho brasileiro fosse lançado lá, se ele conhece alguma coisa.
Do you know
pergunta,
if
não?
there are Brazilian comic books being published? Do you know if
Published?
there are Brazilian comic books being published in Sweden? Have you ever read anything about it?
I've read the twins, of course, Gabriel Ba
Yeah.
and Fabio Moon. I actually met them because we're on Dark Horse, so I met those guys. They're very nice, but no, I'm not sure actually. I was asking after my editor about Brazilian comics because I want to find out about Brazilian comics and I want to find out about like the classic comics, like the comics that made you interested in comics. And he showed me Monica, but I mean maybe a bit more adult adventure
yeah.
comics, yeah.
So Kim, thanks a lot for
Thank
being here,
you.
my friend. It was just great. And galera, ó, a gente vai deixar o link de compra aí da Lena. É um gibizaço, vale muito a pena ler. É uma coisa bem diferentona do que tá rolando aqui. Terrorzão, não é terrorzinho não, é terrorzão mesmo, que nem o Bruno falou lá, pinga sangue. Então é isso aí, ficamos por aqui, curtiu o vídeo, quer mais vídeos assim, dá um like pra gente, se inscreve no canal e é isso. Um abração.